the moment our fellow geeks, dweebs, nerds, and other unfortunates have been fervently waiting for has finally arrived. It's time for TMI, Confessionals of the Nerd Kind. And now, your hosts, Jeff Nerfherder Chandler, Jim Kaiju Baker, and Christina Yojimbo Henry. You can continue. And now, let's get on with the show. Here is TMI.
Run, Blackie, run.
No, he doesn't call him Blackie.
I know. The black.
No jokes allowed.
This kid
He's
had
gonna take anything.
No. I'm sorry. I know this is a five bucket, and I understand, and deservedly so. But there are some questions I have.
The tagline should be "This time it's personal" to this episode.
The horse. That horse was a damn good actor, I have to say.
There's multiple horses that were acting in this movie.
All spray painted, right?
No, the main horse that they used was a horse called Cassoulet.
Yeah.
But
But he had white spots on him.
He was a diva. He had a rider. He could not do swimming. He could not do fighting.
Yeah.
Could not do nude scenes either.
No, yeah, that's good. Yeah, he wore a diaper. What's up with that snake scene? Did he do that too, or were they stunt legs?
No, that was a stunt horse. He couldn't be bothered with that stuff.
I sat through the credits. There is nothing that says no snakes were harmed into making this, so I'm pretty sure that they stepped on that snake. Yes.
So this is a 5-bucket episode that you
Five buckets
stumbled your way into. So
Yes.
This is a special episode where we take a film that's near and dear to our hearts and put it in the elevated pantheon of our 5-bucket list. And 5 buckets is the most that we can award a movie. Buckets meaning popcorn for those uninitiated.
Just look at the logo.
Yeah.
That's because none of us could count to 6. Is that what the problem was?
Well, you get to 6 and 7. It's like, why even
They're
bother?
going to go to 10.
Yeah.
Five is it.
Well, I think that the 5 bucket should be a really elite club. Like 4 bucket is really good for
Yes.
us, right? It's a really good movie, but 5 bucket is where it gets personal. So I wasn't joking when I said the tagline for this should be "This time it's personal," because it always is with a 5 bucket
True,
movie.
that's true. But it's not my 5 bucket, and it's not Jim's 5
Well,
bucket.
no, that's a misnomer. When
Well,
it's one
well,
5 bucket,
okay,
it's
I
all
understand,
5 buckets.
But it was one of us who chose this, yes, and the other one are along. And I'm going to say right up front, it is worthy. It is very worthy. I don't remember the last time I ever saw this movie.
Well, I remember seeing this a lot on HBO. I saw it many, many times. Just over the years, I think its cachet is not as high as your other kid-friendly box office film. So unless you're a fan of the movie, it's not really been out there in your face, readily available, or to remind you, I should say, of its existence.
Right.
So it was interesting to watch it again after all these years.
And I'm assuming that, Christina, you saw this on HBO as well, because this was before you were born.
it was not before I was born.
Or 2, what?
I was 5. I was 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
But then, it wouldn't make its way to HBO until like a year later after
Right.
it was in theaters. So
Right. Yes, I do remember watching this as a kid, and I should note, yes, this is my 5 bucket that I've brought to the team here. I remember seeing the film when I was young and loving it. I read all of the Black Stallion books when I was a kid. I had all the Walter Farley books, and I remember being really interested in like horse breeding and like racing because of those books, because that's really what the bulk of the books are about, as Alec grows up. But I think I rediscovered this movie probably, I want to say about 15 years ago. For some reason, I rewatched it and I was like, why did this film not win every award under the sun?
Well,
Like,
we'll
why?
get into that. The cinematography is
Yeah.
spectacular in this, and not even a nomination
I know.
for
It is a
cinematography.
crime. It is a crime, actually. This is
Yeah.
a truly underrated film. And I think it's not often thought of as an adaptation, although it is an adaptation from the 1941 novel by Walter Farley, but it really stands as its own creation. And I was thinking about this for the last couple of days. Like, this is what we think of as cinema. This is real cinema. You cannot get this exact experience in any other medium of entertainment. You know, you can't duplicate this on a stage. You can't even duplicate this in a book. You can't have this exact experience in any other format except as a film, because there's such a strong visual component of this. There's, huge sections of this movie which are silent, completely silent, or there's just music, or there's just the sound of the wind or the waves. And I think it's so much to the strength of this film, but there are almost 30 full minutes in this movie.
Yeah.
30 full minutes with no dialogue.
Yeah.
I can't imagine a studio letting this go by in this day and age. It's a miracle.
They almost didn't. This is really funny.
Yeah.
I was reading a quote because it took 2 years, I think, from when they made it to get it out in theaters.
Yes.
Because the studio was sitting on it. And I think one of the quotes I read was, after they saw it, the studio saw the finished product. What is this? A kid's art film?
Well, it
who was going to go see this?
It is like Christina just said, it is cinematic brilliance. This first 40 minutes of this movie is it's an art film.
Well, there's a number of things that contribute to that. The cinematography is, huge,
yes, breathtaking.
The setting, the natural beauty that's being captured here, and the emotion that they managed to capture without dialogue, as Christina was saying.
Yeah.
And I think it's and there's a lot of that even before you get to the island and like the establishment of this relationship between Alec and the Black. Even on the boat, Carol Ballard, this was his first feature. He had just directed some short films. Like he had directed industry films, like
don't get your hand stuck in the industrial machine,
stuff like that. And he had directed a few little short films, and he was friends with Francis Ford Coppola.
Not a bad guy to be friends with.
Yeah.
My buddy Francis. Yeah, call him up tonight.
Frankie. Yeah.
Coppola decided he wanted to produce this film, and he asked Carol Ballard to direct it. United Artists came in later after they'd already committed to doing the project together, basically because Francis Ford Coppola was making Apocalypse Now and he needed money. So he made a deal with United Artists that included the Black Stallion, but it was basically so that he could have money for his, massive Heart of Darkness epic. Carol Ballard, he said there was a really long period of time working on the script. Initially, it was him and Coppola kind of trying to work something. And then eventually it was handed over to other screenwriters, primarily Melissa Matheson, who notably wrote E.T. But, the beginning of this film is really not about a script. It's about this boy and his relationship with this horse, and how they save each other in a lot of ways. And it starts off on a boat somewhere, it says off the coast of Africa. You assume like Morocco, northern Africa, because he ends up in Sardinia, that kind of rough area. Alec is eventually rescued by Italian fishermen. But he's on this boat with his father. It's 1946. Seems like a strange time to be like just post-war, right? Maybe.
Not only that, what is he doing on this boat with his dad in the middle of nowhere, going around the corner of Africa when he should
Yeah.
be in school.
And it seems like the only other people on this boat are James Bond villains. Because he's
Oh, I thought that was Father Guido Sarducci and Captain Nemo. He was playing poker with these guys.
So, and his dad, played by Hoyt Axton, who
Dad from
I love.
Gremlins.
I
Yeah.
love.
Yeah, he won a Mogwai in that
Yeah,
pot
I
as
know,
well.
right?
So, but you initially just see Alec by himself, right? His dad's playing poker. Alec is sort of running around the boat on his own, and you really see kind of this world through the eyes of a child, which I think is one of the best things about this film, is that it stays very close to Alec's perspective. It never gets away from the point of view of this child. He sees a bunch of people trying to put this horse, this wild horse, into a stall, and he's absolutely fascinated. The first thing he actually says in the movie is he approaches his dad at the poker table and he says, "You know what I saw? The most fantastic thing." And you can tell that he's sort of immediately taken with the energy of this horse, this like wildness. And of course, the guy who apparently owns the horse, who is trying to beat the horse into submission, is also the villain who later tries to
This piece of crap.
Cuts off Alec's life jacket.
But can we just talk about the fact that he sees this super hyperactive horse, and the first thing he wants to do is give it more sugar? I was like, dude, you got to calm that thing down when you do it.
And
he gives
are
it a
there?
little
And those are just like normal snacks on the table, or sugar cubes?
Sugar cubes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Do they even make sugar cubes like that anymore? One lump.
Well, in
or
the
two.
40s, they did.
Yeah.
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 If you had tea, you'd put.
So yeah, I will say
sugar in.
this whole opening sequence, the whole, the nice little back and forth between his dad afterwards, and he tells him the story about the Alexander King
Bucephalus.
and the horse and the pewter horse or whatever, and then they wake up and there's this fire going. Seeing this as a kid, this is like nightmare fuel.
Mhm. It's very intense.
It's super intense, and like you said, it's very sparse dialogue. It's a lot of it is just playing out, and it is told from like his perspective. His dad's like, stay there, and the water's just pouring over. People are running and screaming. There's fire.
Before we get there, I do want to talk about that scene with Hoyt Axton and Kelly Reno on the bed, where his dad is showing him all the things he won in the poker game, right? And one of the things is this little horse, which he gives to Alec, and he tells him this story of Bucephalus, this wild horse. This horse that was so wild and nobody could ride it, and King Philip was going to kill the horse. Alex, of course, this is a huge metaphor, right? For Alec's relationship with the Black, right? And Alexander shows up and says, "I can ride that horse." And of course, in the phraseology of Hoyt Axton, because Hoyt Axton apparently was told, like, basically, here's the story, and he sort of riffed it so that it really feels natural.
As most dads, I was gonna say, as a dad would do. Yeah.
He says, King Philip said to Alexander, "Kid, you can ride that horse. You can have that horse." And that's really what happens with Alec. It's like once he rides the horse is his.
Oh, that guy wouldn't have given him up, even if he rode him day and night. He would have rather stabbed him than give him that horse.
It's a great scene. And the way it's shot like slightly below Hoyt Axton's chin. So the angle is looking
and he's
up.
looking directly into camera, which is a bit uncomfortable because he's looking at you.
But he's
look the other way, dude.
It's the point of view of a child, right? It's the point of view of his son.
His dad is his focal point, right?
Yeah. And you really feel the warmth between them. You feel, again, sort of like the relationship, the real relationship that they have. You can tell he hero worships his dad. His dad gives him a pocket knife, which is very important, actually. And this pewter horse, which these are the two things he manages to grab when they wake up. And suddenly you hear this roar of the fire. Sound is really important in this movie. Like, even though there's so little dialogue, the sounds of nature, of natural things happening, are huge.
They did at least reward that at the Academy Awards.
Yes, they did get special Oscar for sound editing.
Yeah.
The sound of the fire is this terrifying thing. It sounds like an animal. His dad very methodically is like, put on your life jacket, picks him up, walks him out. He's ignoring all the people panicking.
Yeah,
he's
no,
like,
he's very
my
focused,
priority is my son. You know, he's really, really focused. He tells Alec to hold on to this rail because he's trying to get up to get probably like a lifeboat or something, right? He's like, I got to go help these guys. So he's going up the stairs, but he's looking back and he's checking on Alec. And as he's doing this, the jerk who was trying to, you know, beat the Black Stallion comes and cuts Alec's life jacket off of him. What kind of adult tries to take the life jacket of a child?
Just bring it home that this guy's a jerk.
But of course, in the ruckus, Alec's dad never managed to get a life jacket on.
Apparently no one did. He's the only survivor.
I mean, we don't know. We just know that his dad didn't survive, right? The ship is going down. It's burning. It's in the middle of the ocean. Presumably some people who had life jackets survived, but Alec is washed off the boat by a wave and the tipping of the boat. Before this, he had managed to free the stallion. He'd opened the door. So the stallion's in the water and Alec is in the water, and Alec is calling for his dad. He's the only one who's in the water at this point. He doesn't have a life jacket. Had gonna drown. And then here comes the Black Stallion. He grabs onto the rope. Apparently the stallion swam to shore with him. He passed out. He had the wherewithal to tie one of the ropes around his own waist. And when he wakes up on the shore, he sees his pocket knife in front of him, and he must have cut the rope so he was free from the horse. He still has the rope around his waist, and here he is on this island all alone, with a little
just
kid.
Gorgeous. It's like an alien world, you know, which would have been to him. So I wanted to rename the horse Seabiscuit after that scene.
Seabiscuit was a short-legged horse.
He swam in the water, in the sea.
There is a scene where you catch the horse struggling in the water with its ropes. And it was an accident. That was actually real. That was an accident. The horse, wasn't supposed to get caught up. Yeah, I got the impression
at first that somehow the rope was getting caught up in the propeller.
But the ropes may save Alec because, of course, that's what he latches onto. But they are nothing but an albatross around the neck of that stallion, because on the island, the stallion's hooked up with those ropes. So Alec comes to his rescue again and cuts him loose. And then the stallion returns the favor in that Indiana Jones moment 2 years before Indiana Jones.
I will tell you, this is nightmare fuel number 2. I am not afraid of snakes, but the way that thing comes down that sand dune, that cobra, it was brutal.
So at about 17 minutes into the film, roughly, Alec screams dad, and then there's no more dialogue until 46, 48.
You don't need any of it.
When the fishermen show up.
You watch this and you're like, this is exactly where Zemeckis curbed all of this for Castaway with Tom Hanks. Like it's just this kid on the island, and you're with him in those moments that he's just, the kid still wears his pajamas.
Sure. The thing is, I would say though, the difference is Zemeckis created like this little volleyball head for Tom Hanks to talk to, right? So that
eventually parts of that movie that people could
still hear dialogue. And I think that one of the really courageous things here is that you don't have Alex trying to talk to the horse, Well,
you're not verbally, but there is a body language communication that's going on, and it's gorgeous. I just said that before. The horse's performance is phenomenal. This kid is phenomenal. And you look and you're like, outside of the sequels to this movie, this kid really hasn't done much.
That's because he had an accident.
Oh,
he was hit by a truck.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yes. He was in a pickup truck that was hit by a semi, and it caused many injuries, and it basically halted his acting career. I did not know that. He grew up on a ranch. And that was one of the reasons why they cast him, because he was comfortable with horses. His dad is actually one of the horse wranglers on the movie.
Well, that's good, because it looked to me like he was doing all the riding himself.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
was.
there
I'm
was
like,
a lot of
I was thinking to myself, would this even pass muster today? Would they allow their lead actor to do any of this stuff that this kid is doing? Probably
yes.
not.
Probably not at that age. I don't know. Yeah.
Yes, he was riding the horse.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then you have, like I said, like almost 30 full minutes of Alec on the island trying to figure things out, trying to figure out how to make a fire, how to get food.
Oh, that's terrible. When he eats the seaweed, it was just like,
you can eat poisonous snakes.
And if you're
eating that cobra.
And if you're hungry, though, I bet that seaweed tastes delicious.
But this
sorry,
kid,
I'll starve to death.
after this experience, this kid knows how to toss a salad. You just you give him the tongs, and he is good to go.
When he finally makes it back home and he's eating roast beef, I'm like, oh, roast beef.
But let me just tell you, watching the first half hour or first hour of this movie, I knew every beat, every scene, because I'd seen this over and over and over again. But when he gets home, it was like watching a new movie again.
It is like yeah.
It's a second movie, but the thing is I was unfamiliar with the second part. And I think that I just used to tune into the first half and then go away because it does get, even now, less interesting.
Yeah. Yes,
in its second half, it gets more conventional.
Yeah.
It becomes a racing movie. But that first hour is just mesmerized.
Yes.
And I think what's really magical is I love the scenes where he's trying to get the black to come to him, especially the scene where he puts the sort of little turtle shell full of seaweed on the beach, and he's sort of sitting away and he's whistling for him. He's making these little noises trying to get the black to come to him. And then there's a little dance almost on the beach that's done in silhouette, which is really beautiful, of Alec holding the one seaweed in his hand, which he wants the black to eat from his hand. And the black kind of walks toward him when Alec's back is to him, but when he turns around, the black, backs away.
Off,
and then he turns around again. And it's so natural in that moment. And you just get the feeling that they were just filming this kid playing with the horse. Like there's not like a real direction here, it's just like play with the horse, and you do see some scenes like that for sure at the end of the film over the credits when they they show back.
That's
they it looks like maybe outtakes from the island where it just looks like they're playing,
that whole dictum of never work with kids or animals out the window for this movie.
Well, that
whole scene when he's trying to feed the horse that you were just saying, that's like a one solid take. It's not even that they're using tricks to, I'm like, they're both acting in that scene and it's really impressive.
Yeah.
Even the scene underneath the water where you just see their feet and then they keep going out. Like, it's really like, it is an art film. This whole opening 40 minutes or so is gorgeous to look at. And as Jim said, though, once he's back home, it kind of takes on, it's almost like a different movie.
Yeah. And I remember watching this as a kid, wishing that the whole movie was on the island because I just loved that so much. And like I said, I always used to tune out during the second half because it was like watching the second half was like watching it for the first time as an adult because I'd rarely seen that portion.
Well, I think there's really still something valuable, and it's still pretty beautifully shot, to be honest with you. The scene of Alec running across the green field toward the barn, it looks like an Andrew Wyeth painting.
Yeah, correct.
The grass is like literally up to his shoulders, and it's so beautiful. And that, again, there's long stretches of time with no dialogue, where you're just sort of seeing him, like he goes into the bathroom and he's like looking at the sink, he's looking at the toilet. It's almost like these are foreign objects that he's never seen before.
You don't get a sense of like how long he was on the island, but I don't think it was that long.
A few months at least, like enough for his.
He came
hair
home just
to get
in time
long,
for a summer break.
Who is the girl that's reading the speech about him in class? Because she's sitting with his mother at the race a little bit later on. I'm like, is that his sister? Did they not?
Don't know. I had some issues with mom, though. Mom would seem very disconnected with what was going on. Like, we don't even mention that dad died.
She does.
Yeah, she does. She says, I lost your dad.
I don't know. She actually
asked. She asks the horse, well, she says, "Thank you for my son. I wish you could have brought his dad home too."
This kid is out running around with an old man in a barn, and she's clueless that this is the mystery horse.
I didn't think she was clueless per se, but I did think that my sense of it, and I think Terry Garr does a lot here with very little. My sense of it is that, Alec is really changed. He's not really a little kid anymore. In some ways he is, but like this is a kid who survived by himself on an island for whatever length of time. And I sense that he's like an alien, and she's trying to figure out who he is now and how they can reestablish their relationship. She's lost a little bit of authority simply because he's become so grown up in a way. Even if he's technically still a child, you have to expect too that in some way she's, even if it's not expressed on film, like she's grieving. She lost her husband, right? She hasn't gotten rid of her husband's clothing or anything because Alec goes into the wardrobe and finds all the things. I think there's a lot there that's underneath. I feel like she's almost tiptoeing around Alec. She's not sure what to do with him now that he's come home different. He's brought this horse home, which everyone
seems to be genuinely terrified of it.
During that school speech that the girl gives about him being a hero,
that's Becky. He marries her eventually in the books.
What?
Mm-hmm.
Spoiler alert.
Well, it was all that from that speech. He's like, oh, she likes me.
No, she likes me. She wrote a poem about me.
But, this kid is like a homecoming hero. Nobody can like spring for a stall for this damn horse. Got to keep him in the backyard.
You could just tell, like I said, that she just doesn't know not that she's clueless, but that she just doesn't know what to do. She's like, he's got a bed. He's sleeping in the yard. There's a horse, this huge horse. There's a huge, beautiful horse, that's obviously so wild. Yeah, the garbage man comes, the black runs away. And again, you get a long sequence that's fairly silent, except for kind of one key interaction with Snow and his horse, Napoleon, who points Alec in the right direction.
So the old guy, his name is Snow?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I thought I read it was Shoe. Snow. Okay. He's like this mystical shaman that just kind of shows up. I'm like, there's no way in hell I would have found that horse based on the directions he gave him.
I love that sequence because he says, I'm going to ask Napoleon. And he's like, Napoleon, have you seen a black horse? And there's like this long silence and, and Napoleon sort of turns his head back and makes these little noises. And Alex like, well, what did he say?
Yeah. No, I love this character. And one of my favorite scenes is when Alec goes into his room during that rainstorm. That, and then there's another scene with just him and his mom.
So to your point, Jeff, during this whole scene, Alec falls asleep in an alley looking for Black. And that's when he comes upon Napoleon and Snow. Mm-hmm. I was thinking that as well. Like his mother must be losing her mind. But then you think, well, he was gone for a few months. What's
I know,
one more night?
But it's like
I think she
can make a phone call to let mom know. And she did come to pick him up eventually when he's at Mickey Rooney's house.
She is losing her mind probably, but also she saw him run after the horse. So again, like he's changed, right? Everything is about
I know,
the horse
but you
now.
already lost this kid for X amount of months. You're assuming you hear this, it's not like, today social media, you got to hear, the boat went down. You lost your whole family. Then this kid comes back. You would think you'd want to hold on to this kid as tight as possible.
I think she does.
Tie a rope around him and keep him in the backyard.
I think she would like to do that, but I think she realizes that she can't. I think she realizes that he's not
because he's wild now.
He's wild,
just as wild as Black.
Yeah, he'll be hopping over hobos in no time. Just like.
But then we get Mickey Rooney because he's the ex-racer, and he found Black found him. Whatever did the horse fall into that pit?
No,
or did he put
I think he didn't actually shove him into a pit. There's probably a different way to get in there. So Mickey Rooney thinks, I've just found an Arabian horse. This thing is my lucky day. And so the kid comes, this is my horse. And they have a little argument, which is very funny. Oh, no, that's my horse.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was expecting Mickey Rooney. I was the biggest star in the world, kid.
I know.
The world.
I played Santa Claus
I think that
multiple times.
I think that there's like a pop culture idea of Mickey Rooney now that is very, very mocking, but like he was a good actor, and he really underplays this role. I think it'd be really easy for him to play it broadly, but I think because he underplays it a little bit, he plays it soft. He's not a broad character. It really, in a way, ends up complementing the first half of the film. There's still this sort of quietness. There's a quietness even to their relationship. Obviously, like Henry becomes like a kind of stand-in for his dad. He finds this room where Henry has all of these pictures of, himself as a jockey, these awards he won as a trainer. Right, it's his National Velvet picture. Henry's clearly missing something. He's missing racing. And Alec is now trying to find a place for himself and his horse in this world, right? What kind of world can the two of them live in together? They decide that they're going to train Black to be a racehorse, and that Alec is going to be in secret, and that Alec is going to be the jockey.
Keyword is secrecy, kid. I'm like, yeah, not too creepy.
Okay, it's not that though.
He's disappearing for days on end, hanging out with this guy. This is Doc Brown and Marty McFly.
I think you are looking at a little bit from a more modern lens. Like he doesn't have any malice towards his child.
I know he doesn't have any malice, but again, this is where I'm saying that mom is clueless.
No, she knows where he is. He's with the horse. She knows that.
Yet she somehow still doesn't piece it together. That is
I think that's just unsaid, right? That there's at some point where the mother knows that he's with this guy. She doesn't know exactly what they're doing, but
she just thinks he's with his horse. I think this is not like, I think that my son and Henry are training the Black to be a racehorse. I'm sure she just thinks Alec leaves every day on his bike to go and see his horse.
And he's found a place where he can keep him.
Right. That's what I think that she thinks is going on. I don't, again, like I think you're really ascribing.
I just listen. As a parent, I have to question where my kid.
But the big question though is because Henry keeps referring, I don't know racing, so I don't know what papers he keeps referring to. Maybe his passport or a driver's license.
The horse has a passport.
No.
Hey, you need vaccine papers.
I actually know about this. You have to have the antecedents of the horse. You have to know who their parent was and who their father was and who their mother was. And you have to know what farm they were bred at. Like that's part of racing. In fact, if you look at the listing sometimes for like when they describe these horses, they'll say like,
who they sired,
such and such horse, like his sire was this, his dam was that. Like you have to have that information. They have no idea who this horse is because he's an Arabian horse, who, by the way, is made for desert racing. Arabians have long legs. They don't look like American racehorses, and they're made for like long distance desert running. Yeah. By this time in the 40s, there was a desert race. Actually, it was pretty famous. So,
but apparently, if like a guy that comes on the radio for 5 minutes at a time, he can either usher him right past the authorities or produce a fake set of papers because they don't really say what the deal is. But this guy comes out to see Black racing like if Jabba the Hutt was in a limousine and like all his minions are coming out with him because he comes out like Mr. Big and he turns out to be, hey, Jim Neville, the guy from the radio.
But, this again is a very beautiful scene where they kind of work with what they have. They had wanted to shoot the scene. It started to rain. They weren't sure what to do. They just end up you end up following like the line of these cars, right? These cars in the rain, it's all in shadow. You just see the lights. You see all the lights turn toward the racetrack.
And this is where the sound editing comes in too, because there's large parts where you're not seeing this horse at all.
But you hear it.
Yes, correct.
You hear it running.
Hear him. And that was one of the things. They actually attached a microphone to the underside of the horse. It's not some guy with some, coconuts a la Monty Python. You're telling me he's an Arabian horse that runs in the desert, and yet he's now breaking records running in the pouring rain. So a horse who runs like that is a mutter.
Mm.
And so you're like, oh, maybe, you know, this end sequence of it's going to start pouring and this horse is going to like kick it in. But it did not. It was just, he just ran really fast in the mud.
He's just really just a fast runner, you know. You hear the rain, you
Yeah.
hear the hoofbeats, you hear the ticking of the stopwatch. Like
Yeah.
that's it.
That's
you
it.
know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's so much tension created by these.
Well, the editing is very well done as well. Like you said, yeah, it all works in tandem.
Alec actually passes out on the horse.
Yeah, they can't give this kid an umbrella or put him in the car.
You can't put him. Oh, you mean after the fact. Now we're just gonna leave him on the side of the car.
You know, but then Jim Neville is this character who basically creates this idea of the mystery horse, right? And says this horse runs so fast, you know, he can beat these two horses who are going to run in a match race. I think it's sort of
sensationalism, right? That's how you sell tickets. That's how you get people.
And I think that's how, you know, he gets this idea of the mystery horse into the race without all the normal qualifications, because he's creating something that people are going to want to see. The scene where Terry Garr is such a good actress, and like she can do so much with so little. Where Alec knows Henry's going to come and tell her about the race, and he sits down on the couch and he's like straightening the newspapers, and he's like,
Can I do? Right.
He's like, do you want me to like wash the dishes or mow the lawn? And she kind of looks at him, she's like, sure. You want to vacuum the house while you're at it? And you know, she's kind of like, what is wrong with you? And then he picks up the newspaper very casually. Oh, Mom, do you see this mystery horse? And she's like, yeah, I wonder who it is. And then Henry comes and knocks at the door just at this moment. She gets up to go answer it, and he's like, Black is the mystery horse, and I'm gonna ride him.
Yeah, I gotta ride, Mom.
And she's like, what are you talking about? He's not. And then she goes to the door. She opens the door. Henry's there. She sees him. She closes the door, turns around and says, Black is the mystery horse, and you're going to ride him. And she's like, oh, okay. I see what's going on here. But her timing in that moment, when the way she shuts the door, turns around and faces him and delivers that line, you know, it's not a big part, but I think she does a lot with it.
And she's got to, you know, the character has to make the effort to argue that he's not going to ride the horse until she concedes. But, you know, what kind of dreams are you filling his head with? It's like a very Willy Wonka, good day, sir, moment.
Good day.
But then when she goes upstairs, she tells Alex, she's like, I can't let you do this, right? She's like, it's ridiculous. Like, you're a child, you know, the horse could kill you. Like, I can't let you do this. And then
which is probably maybe the conversation that is the mother was actually having with Kelly Rayne before they signed on for this movie.
I think the only scenes where Kelly Reno doesn't actually ride are the fast racing scenes. They have like a real jockey. She comes upstairs to talk to him, and this is, I think you get the impression that this is the first time that he's really told her what happened in the way that this conversation plays out. You know, he's talking about being in the water and being afraid, and I think that it's really then that she realizes she cannot come between her son and this horse. She just can't. And that this is what Alec needs to do.
So you as a viewer have to get around Mom, just like Alec does, in order for him to get to the race, the race that you want to see at the end of this movie. Not only are papers fabricated to get around the authorities, but Alec is given this elaborate costume to
Lord
also
Helmet? Darth Vader, Lord Helmet, like
with mask. So he looks like a hooded falcon almost with this mask on. So to get past these judges that don't realize that he's a kid, I'm not really quite sure. But
and he throws that off at the end, which I think would probably disqualify if you took your helmet off in the middle of a race.
He goes to run the race, and Black is still wild. And
yes, very much so.
One of the other horses, starts to get aggressive, and Black gets aggressive back, and then they're going up on their hind legs, and they're pawing at each other, and in the process of this, Black gets injured. But Alec doesn't realize it until about half a second before the bell rings. He looks down and sees the blood coming off of Black's legs. And so he's trying to pull him back. He's like, no,
He wants none of it. Yeah, that horse wants none of it. He's like, screw that jerk.
And Black is like, no, I'm running. So then, Alec's running, but he's very far behind. The horse is very far behind. It's, again, such a beautiful scene where it just harkens back to when they're on the island together.
Well, they're connected. Yeah. I mean, it is a very emotional, I'm king of the world kind of a moment.
And you definitely get the sense that Black would not be doing anything like this with anybody else.
With a regular rider, right? Correct. Right.
Yeah. So that, could explain why he's races in the mud just as well as he does in the sand.
Matter. Yeah.
Doesn't matter. It's
they're
Alec
connected.
is on him.
There's a moment there. Yeah. Yeah, it's gorgeous. It really is beautiful to look at. Do you know that Napoleon, the white horse, was actually Niedermeyer's horse in National Lampoon's Animal House?
I can see that first day on set where
do you know who I am?
I'm Cassoulet. I am a highly bred Arabian horse. Yeah. I'm Junior. I play Napoleon.
All right, there, boy.
But I mean, I find this movie very affecting, and it's because of this connection between them. And that's why the second half of the film works, because you realize, like I said, that everything is ultimately about the connection between the two of them. Even if you're like, oh, well, it's more conventional, it's a racing movie now, it's still about the two of them. It's still about.
No, and that's why it's so effective when they go back to those scenes in the end credits. You bring a full circle that, this is what brought these, they're survivors.
And those are the scenes, I think, where you can really see Kelly Reno, not Alec, but Kelly Reno as a person. He's like talking to the horse. You can see him talking. You can see, the horse like lays down in the sand and like rolls around. So he lays down in the sand and rolls around with him. They're just playing, and I imagine that basically the direction was just play with the horse, and it seems like I said, like they just kind of filmed those things. This was Carol Ballard's first feature, like I said. It took them a month to shoot the shipwreck scene, the scene of like,
a tank, by the way. Yeah.
There's a really good documentary on the Criterion Edition, an interview with Carol Ballard, and he talks about filming that scene. And he said, because there would be so much noise, they had worked out like a series of lights that were supposed to signal like when things were supposed to happen and when things were supposed to turn off and all this stuff. But they hadn't taken into account that once the fire started going, there would be smoke and no one would be able to see the lights. And it's like the scene starts going, and then he's like, and there's fire and there's wind and there's water. Yeah. People are running everywhere and screaming. He's like, and I'm trying to cut the scene and nobody can hear me. And he's just yelling. Nobody can see the lights. And it's, just total chaos. And then they spent 3 months on the island, Yeah,
there's got to be a ton of footage that just didn't make it into this movie. So.
And he said he had a pretty small crew there. He said it was maybe like, I think he said 10 or 15 people.
Yeah, it's probably intimate. I mean, to get that performance out of that horse, like I said, is spectacular. So yeah, my wife rode horses as a kid growing up, and she said the first time that horse dropped, they'd roll over and scratch his back like he does in the end credit there. Mm-hmm. She goes, it freaked her out. She's like, God, what is he doing? Mm-hmm. So yeah, my uncle actually was a farrier, so I was raised around horses to a certain extent.
I went through the horse phase, like all girls go through a horse phase.
This actually did cause me to read the series as well as a kid. So I was familiar with the books, and I was a little bit disappointed that we couldn't get this together in time to do another book club series. But
I was thinking the same thing, that this would have been a good book club.
My memory of the book, which I haven't read since I was young, is that not that it was super different, but it's a book, and like I said, the experience of this is really the those long periods of silence in film, which you can't express that in a book. So it would be such a completely different
Yeah, and Farley himself,
experience.
I read, conceded that he was worried about how
Yeah,
they were
sure.
gonna bring it to the big screen, and then when he saw it, he's like, "This is a completely separate thing from my book."
Which I think is, how adaptations should be. I think adaptations should play to the strength
The medium.
of film,
Yeah.
So like if you're adapting from a book to a film, then like the book is the book and the movie is the movie. And I have said this to producers who have contacted me about adapting my own work, that I consider like the two things siblings, right? They look a little similar, but they're not exactly the same. I don't think that a good adaptation is a straight transcription of a book. So yeah, so it's shocking to me, like I said, that this wasn't nominated for every award under the sun. Part of that was the fact that United Artists had no idea what Carol Ballard had made. Didn't want it. The first time it was screened for the executives, he told this story. It was pretty great. It was screened at Francis Ford Coppola's house, and all these executives showed up and they started playing this movie, and they apparently thought they were going to be watching Apocalypse Now. And
Well, that would be a shock right there.
and one of the producers said about half an hour into the movie, "Frankie, what is this? What is this? What is this horse? Where are the helicopters?" Like, this is clearly
Kid
not
goes dark. Man.
Vietnam. So I don't know how you could.
Yeah. So it's gratifying to know that execs were as clueless then as they are now.
Yes. Yeah.
Some things never change.
And then they didn't know what they had, and they basically wanted to put it on a shelf. And Ballard 100% gives credit to Francis Ford Coppola, who basically forced them to release it. He had to force them to release this film that, they had paid for because they didn't know what to do with it.
It's crazy.
It did at least get Mickey Rooney a nomination at the Oscars for Best Supporting Role.
And honestly, I think well deserved. I think that he does.
Yeah, he is very subdued in this.
He's underplayed, and one of the best scenes in the movie is the scene where he teaches Alec how to sit on the horse.
Yes,
on the hay
agreed.
bale.
Yeah, because he never gets it. You never see him on a horse.
And it was all improvised.
Huh.
Carol Ballard said that they had a different scene planned, but it was raining and they didn't know what to do. And Mickey Rooney said to him, I'll do this. And they just improvised. He just improvised that whole scene. And it's one of the best scenes in the movie because it feels genuine. And I think that's what works. The other thing that makes this movie work is that it's very sincere in a good way. It's not saccharine. It's from the heart. It's not ironic in any way, but it's also not like sickly sweet.
Very rarely do you get the sense that, you're watching a movie. It's like you're seeing a slice of life, the way that the scenes are played out, just like that one in the barn.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because it was truly improvised. But it seems like you're watching this unfold, in real time, and the cameras were just there to capture it.
Yeah.
But this was a hit,
I was going to say, what, 2 sequels?
To the surprise, I'm sure, and to the delight of the executives, of course, then it's all their idea once this thing becomes a hit.
Yeah.
We knew it. Just under $3 million to make, which seems impossible.
Minuscule, yeah.
It made $37.8 million at the box office, which isn't a huge number, but compared to the budget.
No, compared to the budget. Yeah.
Yeah. And Carol Ballard seems like this is his bread and butter, like these nature type movies. Never Cry Wolf. Remember that one?
Love that movie.
That's a great movie.
I love that movie.
Fly Away Home. So there's like a thread running through this guy's career.
Mm-hmm. But somehow still never really, I think, recognized for what he was. I was so angry about this film not getting any Oscar nominations that year. So I went and I looked to see like what else was nominated that year. And it was Apocalypse Now. It was the year of Kramer versus Kramer, which won like
Ugh.
every Academy
There you
Award.
go.
Yeah. Not a fun movie to watch, by the way.
Kramer versus Kramer.
Yes, correct.
So, right. So Best Picture was Kramer versus Kramer that won, but what else was nominated? All That Jazz, Apocalypse Now, Breaking Away, and Normal Ray. I think Breaking
Very
Away.
serious year. Holy crap.
I think
Jeez.
Breaking Away is the only movie that I would say maybe doesn't hold up as well, but all the other films are pretty much, they're classics,
They're solid,
right?
yeah.
I'd be up there saying, "Where's Alien?"
Yeah, right.
For Best Actor, Dustin Hoffman, Jack Lemmon in The China Syndrome, Al Pacino, Roy Scheider, Peter Sellers.
So what won for cinematography?
For cinematography was Vittorio Storaro for Apocalypse Now. I know, you're kind of like,
but to not even be in the conversation is
well, and this
a
is
little
what's crazy. So the other nominees were William Fraker for 1941, Giuseppe Rotondo for All That Jazz, Frank Phillips for The Black Hole, and Nestor
Black Hole.
and Nestor
Cinematography.
and Nestor Almendros for Kramer versus Kramer. I don't think of Kramer versus Kramer particularly as like a cinematographer's movie, right?
Yeah. Well, let's get a close up, another close up of
All right, you
of
on
a
one side of the screen,
face.
you on the other side. Now fight. Now argue.
Yes, the fact that Caleb Deschanel was not nominated for this is crazy. It looks like, a lot of the technical awards were divided between All That Jazz and Apocalypse Now. Alien did win Best Visual Effects that year.
There you go.
But yeah, I mean, I think it's just a crime that this film wasn't nominated for more awards.
Maybe a case of it just not be taken seriously enough for people to pay attention to it. Mickey Rooney, he could have been seen as as like a career kind of nomination. But, horror genre films, kids films, I don't think you saw a lot of that back then in the nominations basket.
Yeah, I mean, it just is a shame because I think this is a film that should have been recognized. Certainly cinematography at a minimum should have been recognized. It's a very, very beautiful movie.
Yeah.
And I mean, yes, technically it's a kid's movie
but it's more than that.
But I think it's
because
so
you have
much.
A kid.
Yeah,
right,
I think
you have a kid as the lead does not necessarily make it.
It's about so much more. And like I said, I was trying very hard to get through this without crying. I do get very emotional about this movie. I think it's partially because, I have a son. There's something about his boyness, like this unfettered childhood that he's experiencing on the island. It's just really, really magical. Yeah. And I think this movie is so, so, so beautiful. I think people should watch it and appreciate it. I think it's not recognized enough.
I did have access to the Criterion edition. It's a little grainy early on, but it's
pretty good.
Although I will tell you, I will call them out, the Criterion Collection, because out of all the cinematography that's going on and the beautiful shots, they chose this really weird shot of the kid's leg as the home screen for the. And I'm just like, that's what you picked.
Oh yeah, for the background. Well,
yeah, for the homepage. It was just a little. I
should know. I think the music is also a big part of this. Carmine Coppola.
No, you're right. Yeah, because I mean, the horse does have his own theme. They really kind of play into the Arabian aspect of it, and even like that race that's really kind of devoid of music until the horse picks it up coming around the last corner.
And they go back to the island.
Yes, and then that's when he throws off his helmet and he excuse me. And he's full on, I'm king of the world, hands in the air, kind of we are one. So you can't help but be like, I mean, going in, you're like, oh, he's gonna win the race.
But it's not really about him winning the race.
Correct. No, I agree. But it's not what it's about. Very satisfying moment. It is, yeah.
It's about him. It's about him and his horse, and it's about them feeling like they're together.
Yeah. So you think after this, Mom let the horse have its own room? Like he hangs out in the house, the two of them?
No.
Is that what the sequel is? Black Stallion Returns, right?
They went to Morocco. Yeah. It's about trying to I only remember watching the film one time, but I do remember there was in the books, at least, this feeling like they had to try to trace back like who the Black actually was.
He went back
Yeah.
to Homeland to find his dad.
It was like they had to get actual papers eventually. So that,
Yeah,
that was what the
exactly.
sequel was about.
You can't keep raising this
Yeah.
horse illegally.
Yep.
And by the way, keep your helmet on next time.
In 2002, it was selected for preservation in the United States National Film Registry by the Library of Congress.
So it's sitting 200 miles under Yucca Mountain over out there.
And we've also selected it for preservation on our 5 bucket list.
Yes.
Christina, would you like to induct it?
Yes, I would like to officially induct the Black Stallion into our 5 bucket club.
There you have it. Yet another one checked off the list.
There you go.
The Black Stallion. And again, if you haven't seen this in a while, or if you've never seen it, it is on Prime. Even if you don't have the Criterion edition, it is on Prime, included in your subscription. So it is definitely worth your time. Go seek it out. So having said that, what are we doing next week?
I think we're finally stepping into this Barbenheimer thing.
I'm in the midst of mine.
At least one half of it.
Yeah.
We're not doing a double feature of Oppenheimer and Barbie, which seems to be the very in thing to do, even though that would probably take up about half your day, I'm sure. We are doing Oppenheimer next week.
Yes, we are.
We're not covering Barbie along with it, but we are covering something that was going to be covered eventually, and this is the perfect excuse for us to do it. On a non-Thanksgiving episode, I should add.
What?
Yeah. The original Gojira, 1954, not Godzilla King of the Monsters, mind you, which is the Americanized version, but the original Japanese.
So we're Raymond Burles.
We are Raymond Burles.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. Wow, this may be a secret fight book.
I think it is.
I'm pretty sure.
I don't think it's a secret.
Well, I'll let the cat out of the bag right away.
Mm-hmm.
So that's actually very exciting. That's a great pairing, by the way.
Yeah, that was.
I love it.
I was sitting there and I was like, what can we pair with Oppenheimer? What can we pair with Oppenheimer? And then I'm like, wait, I am a genius.
Yeah, no, yeah. We'll give you that. Yep.
Like, we have to do this. Yeah, I actually saw Oppenheimer yesterday. And there were a lot of people who were clearly doing the double feature. There was multiple people in my theater who had t-shirts on that were either Barbie themed, or one guy actually had a Barbieheimer shirt that he seemed to have made. It was half pink, half black.
I'm telling you, this is viral marketing at its finest right here. And
they're two different studios, and they're probably loving the association.
Yeah, this is fantastic. I mean, if this is what it takes to get people back into the theater and to actually have a shared experience, I'm all for it. This is my son and his friends have already seen Oppenheimer, and there's no way that they would have gone to see this movie if it wasn't tied into this whole.
But did they see Barbie as well?
No, they're going. He's waiting for his girlfriend. They didn't go the same day, but they are seeing Barbie. So
yeah, we're doing Barbie today. We couldn't do it all in one day. I needed like a break.
Yeah, and then the thing is, do you watch Oppenheimer first, or do you watch Barbie first?
So
because I think
the question is,
want to cleanse your palate.
The question is, though, who are the interlopers here? Are Barbie fans being coerced into seeing Oppenheimer?
Yes.
The opposite? It's like who's going against the grain?
Well, we can talk about box office weekend and who came out on top, but I think that Barbie is probably, it's probably Barbie fans who are, all right, we'll do this. We'll go to Oppenheimer.
But what I liked about the whole discussion around it is that the filmmakers and the performers are supporting each other.
Yes.
That's what I like.
Yeah,
They're
great.
not like it seemed like the studios or the media was trying to set this up as like a Titan versus a Titan.
No,
type
you
of
could
thing.
never have done this if it was a studio produced.
Cillian Murphy's out there saying, I think people should see both in the same weekend. And there's like pictures of Greta Gerwig and Margot Robbie going to see Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
The performers and the directors are supporting each other, saying like, there's room for everybody. It doesn't have to be one thing. And that's what I like about it, especially now in the midst of the strike where I feel like everybody should be supporting each other.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, this is counter programming that just is in the zeitgeist right now. And so we're jumping on board.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I guess
It
you
is
gotta
just
come
too
back next
bad,
week.
though, that eventually, you can only really do this while they're in theaters, because once they get to streaming, then, Peacock is all about Universal, Max is all about Warner Brothers. So they'll be ripped apart.
Mhm.
But in
for
the public consciousness, I think
It's
somehow
probably-
they'll
yeah.
always be tied together.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
thing is a thing now. You will see studios trying to latch onto this and somehow make it profitable for
Yeah,
them
rather than
down the
stay away
future.
from somebody else's opening weekend, maybe they'll try to hitch a ride. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, like I said, it's counter programming anyways. It's two different markets. It's
Yeah. But my
so-
impression yesterday was that people were seeing Oppenheimer first because it was the longer film.
yeah.
And then, maybe they were taking a short break and then going.
Like I said, I think you want to
see
cleanse
Barbie.
your palate at the
Yeah.
end of the day. Yeah, I don't know. I've heard mixed reviews about how you feel coming out of this movie. So stay tuned for next week, and I guess we'll
Mhm.
talk about it.
Yes, we will.
All right, I'm happy we got to revisit the Black Stallion here.
Yes, so am I.
I'm happy I only cried once.
Yeah,
I was trying super
caught
hard.
Jim cut all my crying parts out. So.
Guys, I always talk about you were saying, Jeff, when we were watching Belle, like, did this movie make you cry? Or Goodbye Dalgliesh, right? Like, did this movie make you cry? Why are you always watching these movies that make you cry? And it's because I don't have a connection to it if my emotions aren't engaged, and my emotions
you'll
are
be crying
definitely-
during Barbie. You'll be crying during Barbie.
I heard you probably will be.
I probably will be.
Oh,
I was a
man.
Barbie girl.
In a Barbie world.
Yeah, I'm going to Alamo today. I'm getting Barbie stickers. They have like all this merch. They have heart-shaped sunglasses, getting all the stuff.
All right, Barbie, let's go party.
Mm-hmm.
All right, everybody. Thanks for listening.
Thank
as
you.
Thank you.
always. Bye.
Bye.
Hey, everybody. If you like what you just heard, be sure to follow TMI Confessionals of the Nerd Kind on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, or whatever you listen to your favorite podcasts on. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and then share it with your fellow movie nerd friends. It means the world to us and helps our listenership grow.
You can also find us on all of the socials, Instagram and Twitter at TMI_podcast 2018. We're on Facebook and YouTube as well. Just look for the Popcorn Bucket.
You can help support this show by visiting our TeePublic page for some TMI branded goodies such as hoodies, t-shirts, mugs, and stickers. tpublic.com/TMI Confessionals, all one word.
A 5-star review would be incredibly nice as well. I'm just saying.
Thanks again for listening. We truly appreciate you. Be sure to come back next week. We'll save some popcorn for you.
Race like the wind, bullseye. Oh, wait. Sorry, wrong movie.
Yeah, wrong movie.